Have you ever wondered if there are more natural ways to lower your high blood pressure, guard against Alzheimer's, lose weight, feel better? Well, it turns out there is. Welcome to the Nutrition Facts Podcast. I'm your host, Dr. Michael Greger. Today, we look at the best ways to treat ADHD. We start by taking a close look at the effects of artificial food colors in children's diets. Nearly 50 years ago, Cedars-Sinai Chief of Pediatrics Ben Feingold published Heresy, suggesting that artificial food colors could induce behavioral disturbances. Dow Chemical disagreed, as did Coca-Cola, as well as other players within the trillion-dollar processed food industry, who were able to convince the medical establishment that it was all just one elaborate placebo effect. But the truth can only be buried so long. In 2004, a randomized, double-blind, placebo-controlled food challenge was published. Hyperactivity in preschoolers was significantly reduced when artificial colorings and the preservative sodium benzoate were eliminated from their diets. But hyperactivity jumped back up when the additives, rather than a placebo, were reintroduced into their diets. The researchers suggest the benefit would accrue for all children if they didn't consume artificial food colors or benzoate preservatives. Then another randomized, double-blind, placebo-controlled food challenge was published in probably the most prestigious medical journal in the world. This time, researchers found that artificial colors and other food additives in processed foods appeared to exacerbate hyperactive behaviors, impulsivity, inattentiveness, and overactivity among young children, with more pronounced effects in 3-year-olds relative to 8 or 9-year-olds. And indeed, a more recent randomized controlled trial in 8 or 9-year-olds in Hong Kong didn't observe a significant effect. The author suggested it may be because older kids may be less sensitive, or the dose used was too small relative to what the kids typically consumed. But what happens in children already diagnosed with ADHD if you remove artificial food colors? In a meta-analysis of randomized controlled trials for dietary interventions for ADHD, excluding artificial food colors from the diet significantly improved behavior. In this meta-analysis, the data suggests that food colors were harmful, whether assessed by parents, observers, or attention tests, compared to studies showing the opposite. You can actually see the difference in brain waves on EEG compared to placebo. As I highlighted years ago, the European Union requires warning labels of potential adverse effects on activity and attention in children. However, although the Food and Drug Administration in the United States has banned a few artificial colors, like red dye number 1, red dye number 2, red dye number 4, due to cancer concerns, no warning labels are required, and many artificial colors still predominate processed foods. Among grocery store products marketed to children, about 40% contain at least one artificial color. In 2021, a report from the California Environmental Protection Agency highlighted the potential neurobehavioral effects of artificial food dyes in children. The authors concluded that although not all studies implicated them, the current medical literature provides a substantial amount of evidence that consumption of synthetic food dyes is associated with adverse neurobehavioral outcomes in kids, and the FDA's acceptable daily intake levels may not adequately protect children. For years, I've been concerned that red number 3 still hasn't been banned from food, given that it was banned more than 30 years ago from inclusion in any products that go on our skin due to cancer risk. Finally, in October 2023, the California Food Safety Act was signed, banning red dye number 3 from foods and drinks sold in California, while consumer groups like the Center for Science and the Public Interest continued to petition the FDA for a national ban to prohibit use of this carcinogen. And on January 15, 2025, 35 years after it was banned in cosmetics, FDA finally banned it nationwide, in food as of 2027, and in drugs as of 2028. And our next story, the benefits of exercise in controlling ADHD symptoms. Every year in the United States, doctors write 20 million prescriptions for stimulants like Ritalin to give to kids for attention deficit hyperactivity disorder, and it goes up every year. In fact, more than any other drug class, another 0.8 million added every year to that 20 million. That's a lot of amphetamines for a lot of kids.
These drugs are thought to act by increasing dopamine and norepinephrine levels in the brain. Well, guess what else can increase dopamine and norepinephrine levels? Exercise, and it happens within minutes of getting on a bike. Levels shoot up. Medications can take an hour to work. Physical activity works almost immediately. But does it work for ADHD? According to the latest review, there isn't a lot of research out there, but the current evidence suggests that both acute and chronic physical activity can mitigate ADHD symptoms. So, while medications and exercise, with regard to ADHD, shows that they both work to more adequately regulate dopamine and norepinephrine levels in the brain, some of the new long-acting formulations of drugs can work for up to 12 hours, whereas the therapeutic effect of exercise may only last an hour or so. But the drugs produce unwanted side effects and have the potential for abuse. Exercise has been shown to be effective in controlling ADHD symptoms and has essentially no side effects. Well, it's not really true. It should be noted that a major difference in the two treatment modalities is that medications have a defined effect on ADHD symptoms alone, whereas exercise produces physical, mental, and emotional advantages that are far-reaching. So exercise does have side effects, but they're all good.
Visit NutritionFacts.org/audio to see all the podcast episodes with descriptions that include links to their associated videos. Sources cited and other details are available on each video's page. Information about my books, How Not to Die, How Not to Diet, How Not to Age, is at NutritionFacts.org/books. All proceeds from book sales go to charity, and sign up for our free newsletter at NutritionFacts.org/subscribe to stay updated on the latest bite-sized videos and articles. NutritionFacts.org is a science-based nonprofit, and everything on the website is free. There are no ads, no corporate sponsorships, no kickbacks, strictly non-commercial, not selling anything, just put it up as a public service, as a labor of love, as a tribute to my grandmother, whose own life was saved with evidence-based nutrition. Thanks for listening.